So for our afternoon session, we get a little bit of a change of pace and style. This morning, we heard about a number of quite practical initiatives and approaches to how we can collaborate across difference, and we thought about those in a sort of philosophical way. In this session, we're going to explore some of the core underlining principles and values that underpin our mission, but we're going to do that particularly in the context of the passions and actions of our guests, and hopefully we can take away some new inspiration and commitment to action ourselves. We hope some of that might involve the WCC, but it might also be in other activities. So I'm just going to introduce Deborah Collins and Caress Cranwell, who are going to facilitate this afternoon's session. I'm very excited to introduce them, and they're going to take us all together on an exploration of how care for the earth and future generations is inspiring women into action and our own responses to Earth's call for action. Deb and Caress are co-founders of the Wicked Elephants Co-op and very experienced facilitators with many creative and engaging processes up their sleeves to engage with wicked problems and flush out elephants in the room. As custodians of planet Earth, they want to ensure we leave future generations with a world vibrant with life rather than one diminished by human misuse. They're passionate about working in partnership with others who want a world that works better and where we engage the power of our differences in genuine collaboration. And I'm going to hand over to Deb and Caress, who are in the Zoom room now, and they have some other amazing guests that they're going to introduce to us. So over to you, Deb and Caress.
Thank you so much, Janet.
Oh, do you want the spotlight to stay on me during this or not?
No, I think that's fine. You can take that off. And I encourage people to be on gallery view or be on speaker view. I think gallery view, there'll be a time when we encourage you to put it onto speaker view. Thank you for that warm welcome, Janet. It's always a relief not to introduce ourselves. No, it's not. But I'll just say a little bit about us in a minute. But yeah, thank you so much. For those who weren't here this morning, I hate to say it, but you missed a fabulous morning. And for those who were here, welcome back. I hope your energy is revived by your short break. We are doing something quite different this afternoon. So it's very much, I guess, turning the spotlight back onto you. There's no inviting you to get up and sing an aria on your own. There's none of that sort of participation, but there very much is a kind of a focus on engagement and how we engage in this as women, and how I individually engage and how I collectively engage in the work that is so obviously in front of us. Having said that, obviously a lot of people are already super engaged. Other people may be at the other end of that spectrum, but we'll work with all of you. So thank you for coming. We're very excited to be here. We're very excited to work with Women's Climate Congress as members of the organisation from the early days, but also because Wicked Elephants was actually created to work in this space. And when we first started, there weren't all that many people wanting to work in this space. So we're delighted now to have lots of alliance partners that we can work in this space. We also run public programs, and there's one coming up on polarised conversations, and we run one on navigating uncertainty, especially around climate change. So you can look out for that on our website if you're keen. That's enough of the promotion. And we also work in organisations running sustainability, or we prefer to call them regenerative days. But as we know, some people are still moving from one language to the other there. We're also wicked in that we like to spice it up a little bit. We say we do talk differently. We love to involve our senses. We love to involve embodiment. And we also do a thing called serious play. So the invitation and encouragement today is, if we ask you to do something that feels a bit weird or a bit dumb, to play with that notion of, how am I going to be open to difference? How am I going to be open to an invitation to actually show up differently, to listen differently, to hear different things? And we invite you to show up in that way with us. As I said, nothing uber challenging, so don't get freaked out and leave the Zoom room. Absolutely love experts, and I'm about to introduce you to 3 of them. They're experts in that they're passionate about what they do, and they've done some amazing work, and I think you'll share that appreciation of them. We are today asking them to play a role which is a little bit different to being a panelist. We're asking them to inspire you and all of us into action with their vision and and just learning from their pathway. So that's a slight tweak on who and how we show up. We are an ecosystem, and we need your participation to make this really work. So into the catalysts. First of all, if you can find in this fabulous screen of 55 people, Michelle Maloney, who is a doctor, a kid from the bush, she describes herself, trained as a lawyer. Michelle has so many balls in the air. I don't know how she sleeps. She's the co-founder of the Australian Earth Law Alliance. I want to tangent. I want to encourage you all to write some of these things down and check them out later. They're all worth being members of or getting their news. They're fantastic initiatives these 3 women are doing. She's also the co-founder of the New Economy Network of Australia and Future Dreaming. More recently, the Green Prince Initiative, which is a practical approach for people to understand the big picture and the small details about how to create systems change, to create regenerative and sustainable communities. It's a fabulous project, and there is a Green Prince website. You can check that out. Emma Kate Rose, can you find her on your screen? Our second catalyst today is the operations manager for the Next Economy, which is a not-for-profit charity that supports regional areas to thrive as we transition from one economy to the next. Most particularly, they're working in Gladstone at the moment, transitioning away from the coal and gas economy. Such important work. Emma Kate is also the co-founder of Food Connect. And Flora Van O, yes, there she is, beautiful. Our visitor from Vanuatu, and very important to bring our Pacific sisters and brothers into the mix, as we are a Pacific nation. Flora is a feminist climate change activist with a big passion for people power. Flora leads Action Aid in Vanuatu and the Women Tok Tok Tugatha, I hope I said that correctly, initiative, which has mobilized over 5,000 women in response to climate change. She has also helped establish Women Vetan Veta, which is a fascinating project of young women in encouraging young women to actually monitor climate and feed that data back in using their mobile phones. She's also working to support diverse, inclusive women, making sure they're being heard. So in terms of reaching out to diverse groups, I think Flora's doing a fantastic job in Vanuatu. Thank you, Flora, and thank you to all of you for being here today. In terms of introducing you, there's 55 of you, and I'm going to take the next 2 hours to do that. No, I'm not, but we are, because we need to always work with 55 people in the room. So, well, we don't always, but we're so delighted that we've got 55 people in the room. What we're going to do today is I'm going to just get you to introduce yourself to the four boxes that are around you. Now, yes, Caress.
I think we need to be taken off being pinned and for us all to go into gallery view.
Okay, thank you so much. So there are 4 people around you. You know, the vagaries of Zoom. Now I can't find it myself or anybody. The vagaries of Zoom mean that the 4 people that are around you, or 3 if you're on the top line, aren't necessarily the 3 people that are around everybody else, if you know what I mean. We're all mixed and matched here. But what we're going to do is, if I come from the east coast of Australia, I'm going to go there because that's what east is in my map. If I come from the northern Australia, I'm going to go here. If I come from Western Australia, whatever's on your west. And if I come from Southern Australia, Tasmania, or the Pacific, or the centre, where it's not very precise, okay? But so that's the first thing. We're just introducing ourselves to the people around us with a bit of a locator map. And the second thing I want you to do is offer up something to the people around you about what you love about the country around you. I'm on Garingal country in the northern beaches of Sydney, and I might go, because I love what do you think? I love that's it, exactly. So in action, everybody, where are you today? Where are you? You're on the East Coast? Oh, we've got people in Southern Australia. We've got people in North. We've got people way up there. Okay, awesome. And what do you love about where you are? Is it the mountains? Is it the sea? Is it the sky? Is it the trees? We've got amazing trees here. Great. Thank you so much. Okay. It's good to move. It's good to move ourselves. Okay, so first of all, just a little bit of where we're going today. So a little bit of a route map. I'll do a little bit more framing about the next couple of hours, which will include, setting our intention. And then I'm going to pass to my dear colleague, Caress Cranwell, who's going to introduce our ecofeminist model for action, which we've done specially for this workshop. So and remembering one thing about maps, a map is a map. It's not necessarily your territory. There'll be things missing, and there'll be way too many things for some people. That's okay. She's going to introduce that. And then in the workshop, we're going to work our way around the map, dropping into several of those nodes. And that's where we're going to hear from our catalysts. We're going to hear how they navigated some of those nodes, in the hope that that helps us navigate those nodes when we're taking them ourselves, yeah? However large or small our actions are. By the end of the day, so we're going to go into breakout rooms a couple of times, and by the end of the day, we are going to come up with a really simple next step, like where am I going next with my action? What am I able to commit to? So in terms of the framing for this workshop, Janet laid out a couple of things. I just want to stress a couple more and I've said this already, but in our workings here with you today, and also our understanding of how things work best, that we are all in an ecosystem. So everyone is a player in creating this future. Catalysts are playing a role, you're all playing a role, and it's wherever you show up and whatever action you choose. So there's no prizes for being the one that works hardest or the one that works longest. Some people may want to pull back a little bit, some people may want to do more, but the notion is that we're going from being consumers of knowledge and consumers of other people's great work to actually being a player ourselves. Engagement is the key here, whatever level that's on, as I've stressed a couple of times. The other point that's really important here is that we all share the interest that we want to take action on climate change. I would say so that all life thrives, and that we as human beings and all beings have a future on this miraculous planet. There are, however, many pathways to achieving that goal. And, you might be witness, you might be a collaborator, you might be an initiator, you might be a donor. Many pathways, all valid. There's this important aspect, and I heard it raised this morning a number of times, around our care, our ability to care, our ability to show up for one another and for ourselves. And that includes an ability to appreciate each other and to appreciate the work that we're doing. Somebody's just got some background noise that's coming in. If they could turn that off, that'd be great. There's also this principle of turning towards, not away from, difference, and inviting the excitement that that difference can bring to us and to bring to our work and to our projects into the space that we're actually working in. So to turn towards the difference, not away from it. Okay, so The intention, as you might have picked up already today, is to explore your place and path of engagement, and to understand and commit to your next step, however small that is, however large that is. When you leave here today, we hope that you've got clarity about that. But I'll just pause for a moment, because it's not about, I have to find something to do. It's about taking some time today to reflect and drop into, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I'm able to do? And what is it that I can do? So there's no shoulds here, folks. If you want to pause and take up meditation because you're getting too stressed, that too is a very valuable path. Okay, so I think I mentioned that we're going to look at the model in a moment. We're going to dive deeper onto some of those nodes. Now, granted, some people love diagrams. I'm one of those people. Some people phase out. It doesn't mean a lot. That's okay too, because we're going to spend time on some of those nodes. Before I pass to Caress, though, I'd just love to ask you to, when she's going through the model, to actually imagine yourself in the model. Where are you now? Where have you been? What are some of the things that happened to you in the various places around that model? So take yourself always into the experiences and the places that we're talking to. And remember, this is an interactive ecosystem, not a hearing from others just about their experience. So practice that, taking myself into it. Okay, and just one other thing. On the ground rules, I just wanted to say, just again, listen for the difference, stay open to that. Please engage, even if it feels a bit different at first. Take a bio break when needed. And I think that's about, and be for each other, which is basically, rah. Not quite sure I, agree with what she said, but I'm totally supporting my sister in her endeavor and her pathway. Okay, so Caress, take it away with the model that we've created for you.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you. So we generated this model, which is really picking up on a lot of the things that have been expressed already today. It's trying to look at where the ecological and the feminist values and principles converge, and to give value to them and to find your own value within them. So in the map, we're going to start down here with our inspiration. What was the moment that catalyzed you into action, where you could not act? And we're going to share some stories around that moment in our lives and meet one another in the story. From there, we moved to the place where we envisioned a different possible future. We saw that we could be part of a shift from one way to another. We then had to test and grow that idea, and we had to kind of grow our courage to take our heart out to share our ideas and to get responses from the world. So we're in a sapling phase where we're just growing ourselves and our idea. From there, maybe we need to compost that idea. We see others are doing it really well. Composting is a really important part of a forest system, of an ecosystem, not to be undervalued. However, if we're getting really good responses to our ideas, maybe we need to move that into the forest ecosystem. We're moving it away from me into we, into our interaction. The forest has many players. The forest has many diverse components, as we know. It has the tall trees, the mother trees, but we all aren't all mother trees. It has saplings, it has epiphytes, it has fungi that build the connections, weave the connections underground. It has grasses and mosses. And so it's locating where you are, who you are in the system, and giving value to yourself and the part that you play within this complete ecosystem. Some of the principles of the ecosystem are that we need diversity. We need everyone playing in this system. The other is that in finding our way through, we're working towards the communion of all, the common union, and navigating our way through difference. We recognize in working with people, and many of us have done this over the years, that there are many pathways. With diversity, there's always a whole lot of ideas, a whole lot of suggestions, a whole lot of different ways of going. We still have the one goal to create action on climate, for instance. But what we do from there is that we take a couple of ideas and we just want to test them. We put them out there, we create some prototypes, we test our idea, we get some feedback. If the feedback's positive, we move into creating projects or simple actions, trialing and taking simple actions. We then connect with others, we celebrate, and we develop the idea, we reiterate it through by going back to our community, going back to the forest ecosystem that we're building. Always in this process, we really want to pause. Just bring ourselves to presence, to listen again to the inspiration, the thing that catapulted us, and to listen to others, the diversity of voices as we evaluate our next action, our next thing we can do, as we seek support from one another, and maybe coaching and building our skill to do the work. That's really important in this system, to understand that a forest is always learning, always evolving, always growing, and so are we. So we're going to work through this, this system with our catalysts. And are we going? Yes, Deb, you're going to ask a question there.
I am. Could you just pop it back up, because we're just going to do something with the audience before we jump into the. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to ask you to reflect on the model or map for a moment and identify, if you can, where you are right now, and if that is clear or not clear, and you might put that in the chat. And I'd love you to even stand up behind your computer, or but still be able to see the map, and just think, just again looking at the map, have I missed any of those steps? Is it possible that I took feedback and then just composted it, which is fine? Did I miss the step of pausing and evaluating when I got the feedback? Did I miss the step after I started the project of connecting with others and celebrating the wins? If I didn't miss that step, you'll all know how important that is and how great that is to do, and how much energy that gives us and allows us to reiterate, to do another level of the project, to either ramp it up or diversify it. So is there a step on there that I've missed? Where have I got stuck? I think.
Do you want to comment now?
Just in the chat, if you would, thanks, Valerie. Oh, you don't have chat, Valerie, perhaps on the phone. Gil's asked what to do when you have so many different inspirations or don't know how to test and grow ideas. Well, stay tuned, Gil, for how to test and grow ideas. And I think, yeah, we often have so many inspirations. So one question is, how do I move? Have I been able to move some of those inspirations to the next stage, to the envision stage? Have I been able to move those from sapling stage and gather other people around me and actually huddle in the forest and move to the next step? So where am I getting stuck? And it can help to stand up and kind of go, I'm in the, just as Gil might, I'm in inspiration, and look at me, I've got all these choices around me, I don't know where to go. And if that's the case, maybe just go towards one of them. Go towards one of them and go, can I envision this a little bit more? Can I, and we'll get to this when we actually work with the catalyst. So if you would just have a sense of where you are now. Jill, sorry, Jill. Very important, get your name right. And what do you notice about that? Do you notice that you're uncomfortable in the step that you're in? Do you notice that you can't move towards the test? You're too scared in some ways of moving towards the test. If you've got a journal or some paper with you throughout this process, we really encourage you to write some notes for yourself, because this is your action pathway. And we hope it's a helpful workshop for this. So what do you notice about where you are, and maybe what's hindering you? What hurdle is in front of you? Okay, thanks, Caress. And let's jump in to where we begin.
Okay, you've heard enough of us. Let's hear from our catalysts who are here to actually inspire us. So if we can have our catalyst back on spotlight. It's Michelle.
Seem to be the only one.
Laura and
Down others. Thank you.
Emma Kate.
Frightening.
I forgot to mention and thank our tech person who is on the job in the background, and that is Kasaya. Thank you, Kasaya. That's great. And one more, we need Flora.
We need Flora with her beautiful hibiscus there.
Mm.
Thanks for bringing the flowers. So what we want to do now is to have our catalysts tell us their story of inspiration, what that moment was that propelled them along the pathway that they're following. We're going to do this in a particular way. It's with a story stem, and I'm going to guide our catalysts. And then we're going to ask you to share with people in breakout rooms using this same story stem, which we will give you. But first off, we're going to leap in there, and we're going to have one of our catalysts. We're going to have all three of them actually share their story. So who would like to jump in first? That way. Okay. Well,
Who are you pointing to? I'm going to point to Emma Kate. She's below me.
I feel like I'm in the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right, Emma Kate, you're nominated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My point was pointier than your point, I think.
All right.
All right. So Emma Kate, I want you to tell us your story. So once upon a time.
Yeah. Are you going to keep interjecting or yeah, great. Okay. Once upon a time, I was a newly divorced single mum of two very small boys, working to survive, really.
And every day, speak to us. Don't forget about your notes. Just talk to us.
I know I have to bring my brain, leave my brain out of this sometimes. And every day was a struggle. I was working as a criminologist and not really fully engaged or no longer passionate about it.
Until one day,
a friend of mine forced me to see a movie called An Inconvenient Truth.
And because of that,
Because of that, I thought, I can't look my boys in the eye and say that I haven't tried to do something about climate change. So this is now what I need to focus on.
and because of that,
And because of that, I started a little community group called the Ashgrove Climate Action Group, which grew to 200 members in 6 months around monthly meetings and talks.
and because of that,
And because of that, I started getting more and more interested in active transport and started my own car sharing service in Brisbane.
until finally,
Until finally, I met my current partner, my new love, my present love, at a climate change conference, and now have joined him with Food Connect. And that has also led to my work with the Next Economy, working in the regions to help communities thrive in the next economy.
and ever since then,
Well, ever since then, life's been great. Very fulfilling, very busy, and something that I'm really proud to do and look back on and say to my kids, I did everything I could.
great, thank you, MK. Yeah. And maybe, you know, when we're really touched by something, we can give the deaf applause, you know, back to our catalysts here, so that, you know, we're in a reciprocal relationship. All right, I'm going to ask Flora. I'm going to ask you. Would you tell us your story, Flora? So, once upon a time.
Once upon a time, in a beautiful village in the islands of Efate, there I was, love for animals and plants.
And every day,
Waking up every day, seeing green trees around me is absolutely amazing. And despite the hardship and less recognition in the community with the patriarchy system and power, it still feels great to breathe in the fresh oxygen and feel the love of the green nature around me.
yeah, and until one day.
Until one day, a Category 5 cyclone hit my beautiful village, and it rooted, damaged, destroyed the green, and it turned it into a devastating brown scenario, which I thought I would never come, it would never recover.
And because of that, Flora.
And because of that, opportunity comes through those crises. It has led ActionAid Australia to come down, and there comes Carol Angier with a backpack. And I was there trying to pick up pieces from where it was shattered, creating some safe space, getting women and young girls together, talking to them through the issues, and establishing one of the platforms that we had through the information centers.
And because of that, those conversations.
Because of those conversations, we had built up a collective network, and it was showing the gap, and it was showing also where we are lacking our voices in most of the decision making that was done for women and young girls because of those climate crises.
And because of that, Flora.
And because of that, we have now an amazing network of 5,000 women engaged on getting prepared, wanted to know more about how the science aspect linking with the traditional that we have can build the community back up, can restore the nature, can bring everything back to where it was before the cyclone hit.
Until finally.
And so finally, I would say I love what I do. The sustainability of the model that we have created really is rooted with the community and with the women's involvement as the frontliners to the response. And it really just gives a sense of belonging and ownership.
And ever since.
Ever since then, I am one of the champions of climate change activists, and it's a never-ending numerous climate change impact that I will go to, and I always look at the best of everybody and making sure that I am not the person who gives the go-ahead, but the person who sits back and listen and take in everything that was given to me in that area and move forward, giving a voice for women in places that the women's voices are not. And looking at it, we always wanted to make sure that the system network that we have created will speak for itself, has a natural form, and create opportunities for more girls and women to have their voices heard in the times of crisis, basically decreasing violences that have been ongoing. I mean, there's lots of issues, but I wouldn't trade my life for another place. I would be the climate activist who I am, and making sure that we can live longer on this ocean, these one big oceans, and be connected to learn more with all the other catalysts we had in the Pacific.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for really very touching your story. And now, Michelle, you want to hear
Yes.
yours? So
I'll do my best.
Once upon a time, Michelle.
Once upon a time, a little girl was born and she was crazy about animals. And her mother tells a story that she was literally 18 months old when she would spend hours in the garden looking at and rearranging the little frogs. I would move them from bromeliad to bromeliad before I could even talk properly. So I always loved nature. And even my nana stopped going for walks around the block with me when I was about 5 because all the dogs and cats would follow me. So I've always been obsessed with plants and animals.
Every day?
Every day as a young girl, I wanted to do things to help animals. And in my high school years, I wanted to study things that would help me care for the living world. But I discovered that to care for nature directly, you had to be some magical thing like a scientist. And I wasn't that way inclined. I was a wordy girl. I was a nerdy girl. I would read and I would write and I would create and I would imagine. So I literally spent my high school years trying to find the way to serve Mother Nature the best. But I always come up against this block that it seemed that only scientists were allowed to go out and cuddle the frogs. So I kept cuddling the frogs, but was searching. I was a searcher.
Until one day,
after I'd finished a law degree and was working in lots of different jobs, trying to serve nature, and was working in places that were wonderful, but never felt like the whole story. They never felt deep enough or strong enough for where I wanted to put all my passions. Until one day, after many, many years, I saw a conference called Wild Law, and I went to that conference.
and because of that,
I suddenly discovered that my nerdy interest in human systems and systems change and law and economics had a place that was deep and wonderful called Earth jurisprudence. And those ideas connected with all the work I'd done with Indigenous friends for many decades on caring for country. And I suddenly discovered that as someone with a legal and economic and other background, I could be useful through earth laws. And because of that, I was literally about to say that, it's a good flow. Because of that, I came back from the conference and continued conversations with terrific humans, and we ended up co-creating the Australian Earth Laws Alliance, which looks across governance issues, cuts into the systems of our work, and really gave me a place to feel not only that my personal and professional interests came together, but that the work was deep enough and useful enough to make the little frog cuddling little girl happy as a woman, thinking that the work and my education would be of use somewhere. So
until finally
this year, we celebrate 10 years of the Australian Earth Laws Alliance, and our network is beautiful and wonderful. And there are thousands of people, maybe I think across at least 10,000 people across our contact lists and such, doing work that will never end, that is in constant service to each other and to nature, the living world, the earth community. And
until finally,
until
Rochelle.
finally, well, I have to say a few years into creating Ayla, the final feeling was, wow, this is wonderful. I'm never ever dreamt I could be so happy professionally as a searcher over decades, constantly changing jobs and looking for the meaning of my day-to-day professional work. And so, yeah, so Ayla has given me a happy place to build lots of good things and to meet lots of nice people.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you all. I mean, I hear a common thread through your stories about not knowing what you are capable of and the happiness that comes through you in terms of the work you're doing in the world. So thank you. Over to you, Deb.
Yes, let's unspotlight. Thank you. And get everybody back in the room, because now you're going to try this. So I've put the story stem in the chat, and we're going to go into breakout rooms with 2 people. You're only going to have 3 minutes each. And person A is going to answer the question, and person B is going to relentlessly ask those questions. And you might have seen that the speakers looked at notes, and that's only because we introduced this to them the other day on a pre-call. You don't need to have notes at all. But what I am going to invite you to do is spend a minute or 2 now just trying to remember, what was that seed for me that got me really engaged in showing up here, not just here today, but really for the environment, for nature. What can you identify that seed? There's some nods. Can you create something, some, sort of memory in your past that might have really contributed to you showing up for nature? If you can't, let the other person go first and just trust that something will come through. So let's just give you 30 seconds now to really kind of make some notes, perhaps, if you want to. So just around those first 2 questions, first 2 lead-ins, shall we say. Once upon a time, I found myself as a teenager or as a younger person, and every day, for me, it was I planted a tree in our garden at home, and my parents came back from a business trip, and my father moved the tree, and every day I watched that tree die for about 3 months. That was a very painful experience. So what's your once upon a time? Have we got some once upon a times? Yeah, just a little show of recognition. Yeah. And this is where we're just going to jump in, folks. You'll have about 3 minutes each. It's 8 minutes in total, and a minute at the end to finish up. So by all means, say hello, but please jump into the exercise or you might run out of time. We'll give you a halfway signal. Okay, so thanks. If we can go to the breakout rooms now, that would be great. Okay, as we welcome people back into the room. Lovely. I think, might you like to just take some, 20 or 30 seconds again to write some notes? Because sometimes this, most often this story stem really connects us to something that we may well have forgotten how significant it was at the time, and how, as we heard at the end of Sarah's story there, it really led from one thing to the other. And that's a beautiful thing when we can find we call it the origin story, the beginning of your inspiration around the environment.
Thanks, all. That it's our intention for wonder and fun, meeting one another in those spaces. So thank you for your affirmation.
Thank you.
So having located the seed and spend a little bit of time hanging out with that beautiful seed of the beginning of your journey to really partner with this environment, this beautiful planet that we've got, I will pass to Caress, who's going to take us to the next node.
All right, and maybe I don't think we're going to spotlight, but if you want to go on to speaker view, then you will get in frame the person who's going to answer the conversation, who will then be speaking directly to you. So the next step in our journey is the envision step. So I'm going to ask my catalysts, I'm going to ask them to, what was it that you saw possible? What was the shift? And the shift is from something to something that you wanted to help happen. So it's what did you see was possible? What is the shift that you're trying to have happen? So would one of our catalysts like to
Yes,
in?
I can jump in on that one, Caress, because this
Lovely.
shift from something to something is literally the tagline for the Australian Earth Laws Alliance. We are working to support a shift from human-centered extractivist modes of being and doing towards an earth-centered or life-centered way of being and doing. So we're trying to shift from anthropocentrism to seeing ourselves as part of the wider Earth community. Thank you.
Fabulous. Now, Flora or Emma Kate?
I think I can step in on this one. The shift I am looking at with the patriarchal system and the model that we had within our villages and our community. I wanted to make sure that women are recognized and are heard in times of those many decisions that were being made, let alone also being in the parliamentary seats, because we don't have any women in parliament, and this is my way forward to shift from that perspective there. So we can, you know, let everyone know that women knows what they're doing. They've made life, they grow it, they knew it, they definitely know where the outcome would be, and they're gonna get it. So I think that's the shift I'm looking at.
Great. Thanks, Flora.
Thank you.
Emma Kate, how about you?
Yes, I got lost there for a while. My internet timed out. But at the Next Economy, we're very much focused on regional communities making the shift from this sort of neoliberal capitalist framework that runs their economic systems to one that's a regenerative and very much based in the principles of, we wouldn't say this in public, but very much based on the principles of feminist economics and diverse economies framework. So moving people through a process from thinking about one system that is set in stone and shining a light on the diverse way that we all transact, produce, distribute and consume things in ways that are other than just the typical capitalist system that gets the dominant narrative.
Yeah, and what's possible in that shift, Emma Kate? What's possible? What do you see as possible?
What's possible is ways of relating to each other that are more meaningful and putting less focus on time and money as the measurements for success, and putting relationships as the measurement for success and the meaning that they bring to our lives.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Deb.
Yes, I'd love you all to put in the chat, what was your shift? What is the shift that you envision? It's present tense, not past tense. From this to that. And Janet might even tell us with WCC as the founder, what was her shift when she's thought about it and written it down. I'd love to encourage you to write it down. What's the shift that you envision? From living on the earth to being earth. Beautiful. We're happy to hear your voices too. If you just want to say that phrase into the room, we'd love to hear a couple of you. From overwhelm to hope and motivation. Beautiful. from paralysis and alienation to meaningful and productive collective processing and action. Great. From against to alongside. Once you've written it, folks, I'd invite you to actually stand up and make that step. I'm stepping away from this life where I found myself against so many things, and I'm stepping towards alongside. What does that feel like in my body to be alongside other people rather than being adversarial, being conflictual? I'd love you to stand up and just make some movement. You know, we're sitting a long time in front of this screen, and we're not meant to sit for so long. So don't worry about the movement on the screen. I think we'll enjoy it. Make that movement, make those steps, and speak it to yourself. I'm speaking from atomized to integrated. Make that step. What does that feel like? What does it feel like when you're in integrated? Yeah, so I'm moving from hopelessness to the prospect of change. I'm moving from hopelessness. What does that feel like in my body to the prospect of change? I'm hopeful. I'm moving from the horrors of London in World War II to joining and appreciating the beauties of peace and the world around us, which we must cherish. From individual focus and selfishness. When they move, it's a bit tricky, to genuine care and connection and working together for everyone and greater good. Feel it in your body, really get into that, what it felt like over there and what it feels like as you step into what you can envision, that adds energy to your seed, it adds energy to your inspiration. To shift from the patriarchal system to women's voices being heard and listened to and having a full say in all decision making. And on that, would anyone like to say what their shift is into the room? We'd love to hear your voice. Because we certainly are not silent women.
Okay, so I'll go from polarized adversarial discourse to a discourse where we really listen to each other and can work together to really make the changes that we need to make together.
Beautiful. Thank you, Janet. Why we're all here. A beautiful vision that Janet really brought in to being with other fine women around her. Okay, I'm pass back to you, Caress, as we move to the next node in our model.
So the next mode was growing our idea, growing that, taking steps towards checking out our idea, growing the sapling of our idea. It's a stage where we had to care for ourselves, care for our vulnerability, our vulnerable hearts, where we needed to seek nurture and support. And maybe there were times where we had to wear something, some criticism, some things that knocked us down. How was it that each of you found the courage to keep going? And I use the word courage in terms of its root sense, which means to take heart. How were each of you able to recover and take heart and put your precious heart out there again and again and again? What motivated you? Any of our catalysts?
I can say that the one thing that keeps me going all the time is the idea of plants and animals needing us to give them space to live. The idea that we would ever give up is an affront to life on Earth. So the idea of, I wake up in the morning after the 2019-2020 bushfires and don't think I want to live anymore in a world where 3 billion animals died. And I let myself spend a day under the doona feeling sorry for myself. And then I think, you need to get up. You need to put water in the bird bath, and you need to make sure the blue-banded bees have their plants flowering, and then get back to the Ayla work. My obligation, Mary Graham would call it the law of obligation, my obligation to care.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Emma Kate or Laura. Yeah, Laura.
Yes,
Please.
thank you, Caris. One thing that I will put myself in the front line is thinking of the vulnerable women and girls that couldn't even speak for themselves and have been left not even able to access any things in times of crisis.
Yeah.
No way, no information. And they've been left out, they've been hurt. And that drives me to wake up each day. If I can save one more life, if I can put a smile on this family's face, if I can make my sister not feeling alone as a sister, I'll be there to support that. And I think that was something that drives me to make sure that I hold hands with the community and bring it back. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Flora. And Deb, we're going to ask our participants a question here.
Yes, sorry. Did Emma Kate want to throw in anything? She doesn't need to. That's okay. She's good. I can't see it. Okay, she's good to go. Yeah, so this is really about how do I care for myself and how do I share my vision and how do I wear it if things, you know, like once someone said to me, that's really not a great idea. You'll never make any money and it's quite hopeless, really, you know, and it really sent me backwards for a while. So how do we handle rebuke? How do we handle discouragement? We want you to journal, quiet, reflect for a couple of minutes on when this has happened for you and what ideas have been lost, but also what helped you through that. If you did have resilience and you did recover from that discouragement from others, what helped you through really trying to identify that. So the strength that you drew on is important to identify, remember, and go back to and nurture in yourself. How did you care for yourself to get through something that was really hard, discouraging, and you felt like giving up? And how are you now stronger for actually having dealt with that? So just some self-reflection now on self-care, how you do that. Why don't we have some of those appear in the chat so that we can share those? It's really great to see how other people care for themselves in the face of discouragement or failure even, you know, when ideas don't come to fruition and we've spent time and money and resources and then they fall over. How do you pick yourself up? What have you done? Breathing, compassionate spaces and circles of support, so important. Who are our friends? Yeah. Who are our colleagues? Singing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, great. Oh, I'd like an example of that, Sienna, if you don't mind. Movement. Turning off social media for a bit. Sorry, it went. Composting, growing things, quiet times, dear friends, howling at the moon. Great. Time in nature. It's one that always helps me. Contemplation. Returning the kitchen table with meals that are restorative and healthy. Yeah. Cooking for yourself. Buying flowers. Taking time off. Going out for lunch. Believing in my goal, even if the method has failed. Absolutely. To reiterate, to keep the inspiration alive, but actually find another way. We'll talk to this later, find the prototype, find another way of testing it. Talking it over with close women friends, walking in nature, allowing myself time to start again. Absolutely. Lots of compassion, sleep, fabulous, getting together with others. Yeah, not staying alone is really helpful, I think, when we feel so deflated and kind of disappointed. Thinking of the grandchildren, lovely. I know that was your motivation so strongly, Janet, around WCC. Great. Thank you. I hope you've seen there some that you might try because we can all add to the cache of things that I do to nurture myself. Sometimes it's not our first go-to, and I think it's very much part of, you know, women's political and this action cycle to make sure that we take time to care for ourselves and note when we need restoration and resilience. Okay, thank you, Caress, and back to you.
Yeah, we all need to move past Aduna sometimes. So thanks everybody for your inspiration. So we're going to move into the forest ecosystem now. So how important is this step, building the ecosystem, building the team, building the infrastructure, building the social ecology, the ecology for change to happen? So we want each of our speakers to speak from their experience, our catalysts to speak from their experience. And I think, Michelle, you were going to take this one away.
Well, I know that it's something that we did inside AELA, so I can definitely share some rememberings on how we certainly built from the beginning. But when the small group of us decided to form up a new not-for-profit focusing on earth laws, we had no money, and we continued to have no money for 8.5 years because we built it from love and passion. So everything we did was literally from the heart and reaching out to others inside existing and new contacts and networks. So in our first year, and it's the only example I'll give, we had the humility to say, we love this topic, but lots of other people are out there doing amazing things. How do we bring us all together? So we self-funded our own little roadshow, and we got in touch with folks in different towns and places and said, hey, we'd love to host a one-day workshop on some of these topics. Would you come and be our facilitator and our speaker? And does your organization have a free venue? And we all just rolled into town, and we literally called it the Earth Laws Roadshow. And it was a really lovely example. From that, we built hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of personal connections, and then started building out through their networks, and continued to invite great people to speak and invite folks to share their work. And it's certainly the spirit of that work I would inspire anyone to do, making sure that other people get to share and don't feel like you have to carry the whole load. There's nothing more wonderful than listening to other folks and what they're up to and finding ways to support them. So I hope that's a relevant example, but that's certainly, really. And we continue to do that today. We reach out to people and go, hey, love your work. Would you come and talk in a webinar? Then it might be, love your work. Would you help us with the project? Can we help you? It's kind of that simple.
So yeah, growing your network is really important to the success of what you're doing. And what about relationship to Indigenous people and Earth Law, Michelle?
Oh, well, it's the same approach in terms of building personal relationships and not in any way ever being arrogant and saying, I'm a Westerner, knowing where you fit into the world and saying, I'm a Westerner. These ideas are interesting to me, but what do you guys think about this? And basically when I built AELA, I'd already been working for 10 years with a whole range of Indigenous mates in central Queensland and had learnt from them, but came back to them and said, what do you think about these ideas? And who else can we reach out to talk about this with us or to share with others? And as soon as you kind of work that way, it just keeps going and going and going. It's a limitless place of wonder to connect with people and ask them what they're up to and what they would recommend we learn. And I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
That totally makes sense. It's sort of like going into the forest, you know, that's full of, you know, really interesting creatures, people as well. So
yeah. It's great fun. You've got to be a bit curious to do that. I think if you've got no curiosity and you just want to sit and read and write, then, well, that's curious too, but you know what I mean? Like, you've really got to enjoy what other people are up to do that. And you might not want to. You might find people annoying, and that's cool. They often are. But it's one way of doing some work.
We often are. Yes, thanks, Michelle. Emma Kate, I'm wondering how important that has been in the work you're doing, you know, building across building the networks out in the work you're doing in Next Economy.
Yeah, I think for us, just particularly in relation to the recent work we've done with communities in Gladstone, is that we really see ourselves more as the mycelium under the forest. So creating a sort of, you know, or facilitating and getting the soil ready so that that place, the strengths within that place can start to emerge and bloom. So we really see our job as being able to facilitate a safe or a nurturing space where all the voices can be heard. And there are often a lot of very diverse and extreme views in the rooms that we enter, in Central Queensland in particular. So we're very focused on that strengths-based, surfacing those ideas, shining a light on the great things that are happening that don't often get a lot of airtime, but also acknowledging within the room that, you know, there's a lot of people with different views, and they're all valid, and they all come from legitimate feelings. And that often what happens is people get a chance to voice their opinions or their views or their feelings, and that's all they need to do. It clears the space for more common ground to be worked on.
Yeah, wonderful. So my experience is the same as like hearing people, acknowledging that you've heard people can somehow take away the defensiveness of our egos.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. And Flora, you were talking particularly the other day when we were having a chat about this need to move out of ego places. Do you want to share a little bit more about that and how you do it?
Absolutely. Well, we found that in my communities and even the islands we've worked with, the 5 islands, within these 5,000 women, to make sure they're all intact, they have to let go of their own mind. They are that whole perspective of this is me, this is me, and I need to do it for me. That's the one we have to remove completely. The I is it needs to get out of the circle. Then we look at it as the we, the collective. And I think this is what I have came to, you know, look at it and making sure that we always go in with the we focus. Doesn't matter if there is those level of social dynamics within the community, but recognize each one the same. As a woman, you need to just be yourself and say, you know, I don't accept all these big-headed mind, what do you think you are? But you have to come in as a woman. I can give birth to so and so children. I know you do. So let's look at it this way. You raise someone up, and how we raised our kids at home, put a perspective in this network. It's still a baby. Raise it up, making sure it works, and it will have its own natural, you know, flight. It will slowly grow feathers, and then it started. The moment you are realizing it gives the first flight. Whether it failed or not, it will always come back and do the second. And of course, the next day, the other. It won't stop.
You're getting ahead of the process there, Flora. Yeah, that's the next stage. But it's fabulous that you prepare us for that stage of, you know, needing to test and keep rolling on. But what I really heard there was that movement from me and my view, my perspective, to coming from the we space, coming from the community, what we have in common, communion. Yeah, wonderful. Great. Back to you, Deb.
Yeah, and I probably just want to stress there that, you know, given the forest metaphor, that all of our voices, our individual voices, join to be the forest. So it's not about silencing our, you know, offerings or our opinion for that matter, but it's really about listening in that depth space so that all of these strands can be added together. We can hear all of these strands, and we're a stronger we for stepping back a little bit sometimes and allowing all of our voices to be heard. And it's certainly a way to invite diversity and other opinions into our space. So the question here is, who's in your relational landscape? Could you draw a map, not necessarily putting yourself at the center of that map, but could you draw a map in regards to the work of climate and the work of environment, and you being in partnership with nature and environment? Who else is there? So are they close to you? Are they far away? Are they people that inspire you? Or are they your brother, cousin, partner? Like, where are they and who are they and how? So you could do big circles, little circles, But who's there? Let's map who is there. And you could give them a couple of features, like why are they there? Well, they're really supportive of my ideas, or they're brilliant academically and they bring me all these resources. Like, why are they on your relational map? Who's in your relational map? Now, as you look at that map, who's missing? Like, you've got skills, there's certainly skills, and there's hard skills and soft skills. So some people, great facilitators, great, really supportive, really great at appreciating me. But do I actually need somebody with project management skills? Do I need to partner up with someone with project management skills? Do I need to offer my project management skills maybe somewhere? So where's a way to, what we're trying to enliven our fields here for more efficacious action. Who's missing? Let me identify them. What kind of diversity have you got? Have you got any diversity in your field? Race, gender, class, religion, political persuasion, age, sexuality, and on they go. How proactive are you about welcoming or going out and inviting people with diversity from your mob, your smaller mob, inviting them in? How much is that on your radar? Could you do more? Who would be most kind of, who would be the best addition at this moment to your group or your idea or your landscape that could really fill in the missing, be that around diversity or skill? Who do I need? Who do I need to support me being more in action? Because often when we identify this and we name it, this week you might just find that person or these people. So let me pass back to you, Caress, as we go to the next node.
Great. Okie doke. So we're moving on to the next one, where we recognize that there are multiple pathways of action. There's multiple things for us to actually do and be in action on. And I know that you, Michelle, have you've got so many different initiatives going on. How important is this diversity in terms of inclusion?
Oh, look, the short answer is very, very, very important. And I know we're not perfect. We have, we're not connected to everybody, but making sure that we can continue to reach out to people proactively, but also respond to different kinds of folks who come to us. And the one thing it means is we're always a chameleon in the way that we communicate. We might communicate very differently to a group of school children versus a group of older folks in a more conservative business space. I still get invited to speak to lawyers and such. So the diversity is really important. We'd love to do more. If we had more of us or more people who could do more outreach, we'd have more. Yeah, it's really important.
And what I'm hearing is the importance of using different language in different groupings, knowing how to speak to their needs, their interests, their way of speaking.
yeah, and you never get it always right, but it's important, I think, to listen first and find out what folks are up to. And then, you know, if they come to us, then we know they've already got a handle on some of the things we do and they're interested. We very rarely do cold calls. We're invited in. I remember hearing Emma Kate say that, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, we're all like vampires. We only come in when we're invited in. And when we're invited in, we know folks are interested. It makes it easy. But if on occasion I'm invited to speak somewhere by one person and they're trying to get us into a more perhaps conservative place, then I work really hard to make sure that my language is inclusive of them, even if their views might be different. I was recently invited to speak to a small group of folks inside the Liberal Party, which was both delightful and shocking to me. And they turned out to be very lovely. I'm obviously wearing the colours of my political persuasions, but they were genuinely interested in rights of nature work. And I made sure that I was respectful of their different sort of starting point, but the same love they share. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's the key I'm hearing, really. Deep respect. And what do we love together? Yeah. Emma Kate, I'm wondering in the work that you're doing in Central Queensland, just the need to affirm the diverse initiatives and to really support and celebrate them. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for us, it's interesting because a lot of this work, you have to be very mindful that the energy that you bring to the work really does determine the outcome a lot of the time. So the work is just as much on ourselves as it is in terms of the process that we use. So we spend a lot of time grounding ourselves before we do any sort of work with community. It's really important that, particularly in situations where there's rapid economic change and a lot of fear that is underlying people's, decision making, that the energy that you represent is one that is open and listening and respectful and compassionate. And we find that, like, it's almost non-linear, like the way that people open up in these situations often far exceeds our expectations by the time the day's over. We often end up with very rich conversations, very rich cross connections between participants who would otherwise walk past each other on the street every day and not say boo. So it can be quite transformative and quite powerful, and it really does all depend on the energy that you bring into the room. But also keep in mind at the forefront that, you know, the dominant narrative is out there. It's always in people's faces. So what can we focus on? What can we focus on within our Power in the Room that really does highlight or shine a spotlight on the many diverse ways of being and doing in our local communities that provide a rich life for everybody? And what can we highlight and get support or investment or policy change or whatever that is to, you know, grow and nurture these initiatives that are happening at the grassroots?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there's diversity of approaches, but the key to those is your own energy and your own openness and your capacity to kind of bring that climate again. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's a work.
Can I just interrupt? We've had someone who I think I've managed to offend. So I just want to make it very clear to someone called Margaret. Absolutely not. I work with lots of folks. I was giving an example that sometimes I'm invited to speak to folks, and I've been working for 10 years and I haven't been invited by that particular group of folks before. So for me, they feel like a different audience because obviously some of what I do isn't normally that interesting to them. So that's all. I don't want anyone to get offended around political issues. That would seem a real shame of this entire positive space to work in together. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Michelle. It's really important that, you know, we really affirm that here we are supporting a value of difference and diversity, and our willingness to actually enter into the worlds and perspectives of one another is really key to building the energy and functionality of this ecosystem, of the forest ecosystem, the social ecology that we are. Yeah, so thanks for that. Flora, you talked at some point about the importance of really deeply listening. Can you just develop that a little bit more for us in terms of really appreciating the diversity of project ideas or initiatives that people might take in your situation?
Thank you, Karas. I would wanted to highlight what the power of people, the power of collective needs. So when we started it out, the only thing we are hearing is all the issues that were faced during a climate crisis, during the shift of getting to know, oh, it's climate change. But what it really brings out from there is when they get to know that if they do it this way, it will be, it will be fruitful at the end. They will reap what they sow. And it really gives them that sense of ownership. And they, you can sit down, they will list hundreds of what they want to do, but you just need to make sure that you pick out the most reliable and effective one, and really at their own capacity that they can do. You don't want to overload them with, give them so much high expectation. And then when one thing fails, they will nail you every single time when you come back. They will tell you, oh, you did mention that, but it never worked out. So we always look at it in a way, more like a dialogue, like a women's dialogue. Like we sit them down and we talk, and they would say, we want that to happen. We are seeing that if we do it this way, and all we could do is listen and help them. Okay, this is more like, now you're putting it this way. Now it became a program. Okay, let's initiate that into an activity. How are we moving it forward? Where's the sustainability that comes in? If I decided to move, where would you be? How can you run that forward? So they look at it and nurture it, and they put everything they had traditionally. And if most of them that we work with are illiterate, so what they can think of was the present, was what they see. They do not look at the 10 years, how is it going down? This is where we fit in, and we just tell them, this is how you do it. And if you look at it this way and that way, you'll end up here. And they analyze it at their own state of mind, how they look at it, and they'll tell you exactly if it's wrong or if it's right, if the idea is good and if it's for them. So yes, that's giving them that space.
Wonderful. And testing, which we're going to move into next. But before we do that, Deb.
Yeah, thanks, Caress. Because what we want to start doing now is mapping some of the inspiration that's in you. And Jill was the one before who said, oh, there's so much inspiration. And likewise, there's so many pathways that we could take. So we want you to start kind of journaling again. Well, I could do this, or I could do this. And it might be, joining WCC, or it might be, finding out more about AILA and going to their conferences. It might be, building your skill base around something. I really want to do conflict resolution. That seems like a really awesome skill that I need to do. It could be really simple. Like I'm just going to, commit to this much money a month to these 7 organizations, and that's new for me. It could be pulling back from an organization that you're in because you're near burnout and you recognize that. So, it's not always about doing more. It's really important to kind of be, where can I be effective here? And what am I actually warmed up to doing? Not, again, what should I do? So what are some of the options that are presenting themselves? And I just thought, can think of a lovely option brought up by, Margaret putting that in the chat, because I find this really curious too, that somehow the left owns concern about the environment and climate change. I find that really a real hurdle to our progress. And I think WCC is all about getting across the political divide. So I think there's one action in here that anybody can take up, which is, if I do not know a Liberal voter, and I do know some, if I don't know a Liberal voter who cares about climate, then let me go out and find one this week, because there's plenty of them. Okay. So would you like to map some of the things that are coming up in your mind? Oh, I want to support this. I want to do this. I want to do that. Just map those. Just throw them down on a mind map would be kind of perfect, I think, because mind maps don't have to start at A and end at Z. Just mind map what's in your mind right now. What's emerging.
And it may be, what skill do I need to deepen and develop?
Yeah.
Recognizing that we are continually learning.
Okay, got down a few ideas. Feeling a bit of overwhelm. Anyone feeling overwhelmed? Yes. Janet, yours might be stepping back from something. Do you think? Yours might be. Because really that is a great action to take, folks, and it's still an action, you know, to make that brave call to say, you know what, I can't actually be on that committee or in this group because I'm really overdone and I need to focus over here. Okay, let me pass back to Caress, because now we're moving into the exciting stage of prototyping one of our ideas. Simple prototypes we're after.
Yeah, well, Flora already really gave us a fantastic introduction to this stage in terms of, you know, women going, I tried that idea and, you know, it kind of failed. So, but then others, when they came in and you expanded the idea, it was picked up again. So how can I test out? How can I take a step, a small step to test this pathway of action? In the world of complexity, it's just that we want to try and prototype one small action, allowing that there are diversity of responses, a diversity of actions. So what's one small step? And we're not going to go to our catalysts at the moment. We're just going to focus on the participants with this question, Deb.
Okay, so we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I'm going to ask everybody to stay in the breakout room. If you're on your own, don't get too lonely. People will come and join you. It just takes us a while to get through the 50 people. A fabulous tech person is going to enaction that, and you're going to talk about what is one simple action that I can test, get this, in the next week or so. So there's a little bit of time pressure. It's got to be simple. It could grow to something bigger that could be fabulous, but it is just fine if it's small, and meaningful to you is what's important. So choose one, and then person A, and let's go with person A is the person with the shortest hair in the group. So that's an easy start. Don't have to spend minutes deciding on that. So person A shares the idea or action that they're called to do. So what's coming up in you that you really want to, I can do that. And what's the one step that you can best take this week to test that idea? Person B, very important person, and this can be a little bit hard. I want you to reflect back what you heard the person say. It's very valuable to have a reflection back on what you said. Don't put your own meaning in it, folks. Please just try and stay with what you heard. And person C appreciates the idea and action. That's it. And then we switch over. You've got 3 minutes each, so keep it short because your idea is going to be actioned in the next couple of weeks. Okay, could we go to our breakout rooms, please? And please stay. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, good. Smiles. Fantastic. The overwhelm has shifted. Fantastic. Would you share with us in the chat what your next step is? And let's see the diversity of steps there, large and small, complex and simple, complicated, overdue, steps back to rest and care, embrace awkward conversations. Great, Emma Kate, we might love to hear how you're going to do that. That was energizing. Great. You're going to join the Bernie CWA. Oh, that's great. Oh, I think that's wonderful to listen to different people. Yep. Rest, Janet. Congratulations. We all applaud that, I think. Let's applaud Janet having a rest. Fantastic.
No, you don't have to make it sound like you're trying to push me out.
Not at all. Not at all. But I know how hard what a big effort we all make. So I'm just spotlighting you, Janet, because I don't know everybody in the group. So
it's also important to recognize that, you know, winter and rest is an important part of the cycle of life. So and in that place, more is generated. So it's underestimated, the value of rest in our culture and it needs to be another feminist value that we take up and celebrate.
Yeah, here. Thanks, Caress. Because doing more has been often the curse of our civilization. Would you like to read any of those out, Caress?
Wonderful. Look into different people running and see what they stand for. Yes. Committed to undertaking a boot camp in 8 days to take my public speaking to a professional level. So some skills development there. Fantastic. Find other women and together set up a working group for women taking cultural responsibility, voice, climate, and truth-telling. Wow, that sounds amazing. Social developers workshop. I'm focusing on climate emergency using this process. That's wonderful. Continue work for ending nuclear weapons. Absolutely. And meditation and gardening to keep it all sustainable. I really celebrate that. Finding the balances. Facilitating space for climate-focused conversations in gender equity movements. Shift to gender equality. Maybe a roadshow. And Meg composing the soundtrack. Meg, I hope you're signed on to that.
That's great. When it's gone off the page now, but thinking about inviting other women to join a climate group, any of these actions that we've got down here, what's the one simple first step, that if you took tomorrow would actually start the ball rolling? Could be tiny, but what is that one step that, and thinking about your diary and thinking about the week ahead, where might it land? Because we can get so excited when we're together, but then the week presents itself and we go, oh, so really break it down a little bit at this point while we're all together still and we've got the support of each other to kind of go, this is what I'm going to do. And in Zol's case, it might be, I'm going to ring those 2 women first off who I think might be interested. I think that was your example, Zol, about...
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, sure.
First thing I'm going to do is connect the First Nations women that I know and work with and ask them if they will, if they think it's a great idea, and if they'll give us their blessing and be mentor. And the second thing I'm going to do is get hold of Women's Congress, Climate Congress, and say, I'm getting involved.
Yay. Fantastic. So yeah, really break it down, something that's really, achievable this week, that's not going to take, you to think about it for 3 months. That's what we really want to do. Like a prototype is a small example of, as I said before, something that could grow or something that, could just be in and of itself the action. I walk across the road, I knock on the door, I have a chat to my neighbor, small action done in a week, but it could be something larger as well. Okay, so we've got some actions down. Very good. Put some, if you haven't already, pop them in the chat, because committing and witnessing, being witnessed is a really great motivator for and reminder about doing things. Yes, meditate tomorrow. Very good. I think that's great. And phone my friend Zol. Okay, great. And again, if you want to make connections here because you've talked to someone in a group, reach out before the end of the session, which is coming up in 10 minutes. As part of this connect thing, and we might ask the Catalyst, Caress, and go to the Catalyst for a couple of answers on this, but how, we would posit that connecting and celebrating is a really important part of any project or action to underline, however you do it, in small ways or large ways, that you took action and we took action. And sometimes we drop that step, don't have time, don't have whatever, but we would advocate for not. Would we like, I'll pass to you, Chris.
Wonderful. You're doing a great job there. So, Flora, Emma Kate,
Might
Michelle,
take
anything?
from one if we could. Yeah.
Yeah, Flora, how about you? How important is connecting and celebrating?
Harris, connecting and celebrating is what I would say I live for, and making sure that communities do that. Because once you're connected, it's hard to let go. It's hard to move yourself out of it. You just wanted it to be seeing where it ends, how it changed lives, how it transformed the lives of women, young girls, even the disability communities, and how it built the connection between you and the animals, you and the forest, you and the marine life, everything around it. It's all about connectivity. So it's very, very important. As a person, you need to connect. Once you connect, you know where the next step is. You have it. It's in you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for just that reminder. And I've seen it in the chat as well. You know, the importance of connecting to nature is and grounding ourselves there and celebrating our love of the natural world and the beauty to help us drop out of the stress and the critical mind into the richness of what we've been given. So thanks for that reminder there, Flora. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to throw this in. The Women's Climate Congress in the next couple of days, Lynn, is that correct, is going to send an email about how to connect on their platform. And what we would love to invite you to do is to get onto that platform, and we're going to make some groups there, and you can also make groups, and you can post in your group what you've done, and you can connect up with other people. And in this way, you know, you might find people doing the same sort of thing, which is a great resource. How did you do this? What will I do now? And you might also love to read what other people are doing. So to enliven the Connect WC platform, anything you'd like to add, Lynn, to what I've mentioned there, but there will be something coming out in the next couple of days. Is she on the thing? No, that's all right. Don't worry. You'll be getting an email to connect directly to that. And as I said, we will.
Yeah, Lynn should be here now. Sorry, we just had a.
No, that's all right. I think we'll move on because
Okay. Yeah,
we've
sure.
only got 5 minutes left, and there is a couple of other things that we want to do. So I'll pass to Caress, and watch out for that email because we'd love to hear more from you.
All right, so I'm now going to invite each of our speakers to speak as if they were the voice for Michelle Earth Law, for Emma Kate, Next Economy, for Flora. You are the voice of women of the Pacific. You're not talking about them, you're talking as them. And as those voices, I want you to give each of us, speak to the hearts of each of us, your invitation from that place.
You're pointing at all of us, but who did you want to go first, Doug?
Kate, you are going to go first. I think you wanted to go last, Michelle. So.
I'm happy to go last, yeah.
Okay, so Flora or Emma Kate?
You go, Flora.
Thank you all, and thank you for being in this space. As a Pacific voice, my call and my vision and where I'm sitting is we are all in one big ocean together. And this big ocean connects each one of us. So we cannot deny that we are not from the Pacific. We are all from the Pacific. And we have an origin, is a feminist origin. And as a gender lens point of view, we connect with everybody and we know what's best, and we know it from the time we start to live the life of a human being on earth, and we know we have a greater responsibility. So we don't want division, we just want unity, we want collaboration, we want partnership, and moving forward, one canoe, like only one boat for everybody to move into and drive the vision. So I think that's from the voices of the women. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Pacific women. Thank you, Flora. Yeah. So Emma Kate, voice of Next Economy. Will you speak with that voice and invite us?
As the voice of the next economy, I encourage everybody to embrace uncertainty, start to feel comfortable with change, realize that the future is never going to be what you expect it to be. Look around you at all the amazing grassroots initiatives, people doing amazing things that might not be recognized in the traditional economy, but are so valuable, and without them, we just would not exist. So from the next economy, the future is bright.
Beautiful. Thank you, Next Economy. Thank you, Emma Kate. And finally to you, Earth Law.
If I was speaking from the point of view of Mother Nature to all of you lovely ladies, I would say, yes, okay. So, well, I just feel very humbled to be speaking on behalf of Mother Nature, but I would say, I am saying, thank you all of you for caring. Thank you all of you for laying awake at night and waking up in the morning, feeling concerned about life on Earth. Take a deep breath and remember you are here because you are today's representative of life on Earth, and you're here because of the unbroken chain of life. Right back to whether it's creation or the Big Bang, it's a very long time ago. We are special, we are all valuable, and we can all play a part in caring for one another. But let me lay the burden from you back onto me, planet Earth. You are only one little organism amongst many. You can do as much as you can do, and that is all. So don't try to wreck yourself or be unjust to yourself in your journey to try to find how to be useful or how to care. Just do what you can and sleep well at night knowing that you care. Thanks.
Thank you, Mother Earth.
Thank
Thank you, Michelle.
you so much, Caress, and our fabulous catalysts. As we wind up and say goodbye, there's one kooky little play that I want to invite you to do with us. The other day, Caress was visiting Sydney, and we had the pleasure of seeing the Animal Orchestra in the Sydney Biennale, which really is a treat. It's a composer, Bernie Krause, who's dedicated his life to traveling the world and recording the sounds of nature, and relatively disturbing how many of those sounds are disappearing. Aka, the 1950s, I think, book by Rachel Carson. So if you have an opportunity, I encourage you to see it. But what I thought today was that we could make our own orchestra, and it might not sound as blissful as the orchestra of the orcas or the orchestra of the forest trees, but I would like to invite us to play. And I'd like to, with this provocation, is there something that resonates with you from the day? Was it the me to we, or was it, we're all players in the future? Whatever that aha moment was, or that what's left with you, I'd love you to put it into bird song. So we might have, how did we go with this, Caress? We had the I've got to be relatively on time here. Yippee, it's me. I'm in, meaning I need to do the action here.
I'm in.
Could you all go off mute? Because our cacophony, we need to be heard as women. We've had too many years as being silenced and sat on. We need to be heard. And all go off mute. It sounds fabulous. The kookaburras are here because they feel joy at the workshop. Janet, I think you've got a lot of echo on yours. You might go on mute, one of you in the centre there. But the kookaburras are feeling joy. Caress does a very good kookaburra. She could give us an example of that. And the boo-book owl might just be going, thank you, thank you, thank you, to all our beautiful catalysts. So off we go. I think start wherever you want to go. Oh,
All right. We need to try that again. We're not going to leave this room until we really get a chorus. We want a giant chorus. We
okay.
want
She's putting
to up
demands on us now.
Yes, demands. So I
Okay.
really want to hear the fullness of your voice. Let's have a chorus. You're going to count us in on the count of 3. We each do one of those or our own original
Caress,
song.
before you count, remind everyone go back onto gallery so they can see everybody.
Yeah.
Be more encouraged.
You.
Celebrate. Live it.
We can see one
in our
another.
voice. Be
The
uplifted.
beautiful
Women
chorus
rise.
of us. We are women rising. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Lovely. For the planet, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being fabulous participants and engaging with us and with yourselves. And I'll pass back to Janet. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen.
Okay. Ooh. Oh, I'm not known for being speechless, but I feel a little bit speechless just at the moment after that. Oh, we've got a ghostly presence. That's all right. What can I say? Thank you very much to Deb and Caress for leading us through that wonderful exploration of an eco-feminist action cycle. And thank you very much to our catalysts, Emma, Kate, Michelle, and Flora. And thank you very much to all of our participants online for joining in so wholeheartedly into this little adventure. And I hope that you are taking away lots of new energy ideas, and I can see bubbly things happening in the chat, people being in touch with each other, and so I think lots of good things are going to happen. I was going to try a sort of segue to speak as the voice of Women's Climate Congress, because I sort of had a little tiny preview of some of the things that were in this workshop. And I just find I can't really do any better than Flora, because I think what Flora expressed about, we are women, we know who we are, we know what we need to use our voices to come together, bring everyone together and be brave and come together as women. And that is, and so as the voice of the Women's Climate Congress, that is the voice, that I want that voice to be the voice of our charter, to be a brave women's voice. Be sure in your own shoes, be bold, feel that we are together, we've got each other's backs, we can see we have each other's backs, because in these 2 days that we've spent so far, there's been so much energy and we are a powerful force. And it's not that our ideas are naive and, oh, that'll never happen, love sort of thing. We can make this happen. As Anne Polina said, we can dream, we must dream, and we can send the dream out. And we can bring people along with us because we're strong and brave. So thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. So we're going to take a little break now so that we can all stand up. And I know we have already shaken off different times, but we can go and take a bio break and make a cup of tea. And then we're going to come back at 4:15 for our last session, which is a little bit unstructured at the moment. So I hope you're going to come back bringing some ideas that you've gained over the day about our actions and next steps that we might be going to take together. So as for the other breaks, I'm going to ask Johanna to give us a few of the slides from Hillary's visual petition to help us come down, bring us down back into our thoughts about why we're here, and then we can have our break and come back at 4:15. And I'll see you all there. But before I go, I must just thank, in case it doesn't come up later in the day, Kasaya Mbaba and Johanna McBride, who've been doing our tech work for today, and an absolutely marvellous job. It's fiddly work, and we thank them very, very much for the work they've been doing all day. Okay.